Now that you have the first draft of your cause and effect essay, it's time to go back and take a closer look at the introduction, especially the hook, which is what gets your reader interested in your essay. And this is a good time to ask for some feedback from your peers about the hook and if it's effective in your essay. For the first draft of your essay, all I asked you was to put your thesis statement. Now we're going to go back and work on the hook and the background information. Now, the background information is going to give your reader some information about this topic. You're going to start with the general information and then move down to the more specific information that leads directly into your thesis statement. Added some background information here to my introduction. So I say at first it might seem great that all the students in a class are passing, but actually it can cause problems. My essay is about the causes of all the students passing, and here in the background is a good place to add some general information about the effect of this happening. In this case, I'm signaling it by the problem here, so I'm talking just a little bit about the effect of all the students passing here in the introduction. And then I'm going to move more specifically in the causes. So if your body paragraphs of your essay focus on the effects, you might want to include very generally the cause or causes in your introduction. In the same way, if like me, your body paragraph focuses mostly on the causes, then here in the introduction, in the background information, you might want to briefly state some of the effects, or in this case, the problem. For example, in accredited programs, the accrediting agency may require programs to submit their pass rates and provide explanation for any rates that fall outside the normal range. Therefore, it's important to take a closer look at the possible causes of these pass rates to make sure that the class is meeting the needs of all the students. Again, I'm going from something more general, talking about pass rates and what everybody thinks about pass rates. Oh, good, everybody passed the class. But then I'm making it more specific, talking about the accrediting agency and how they look at that, and then making it even more specific about why I need to take a closer look at this so that I can tell the accrediting agency what some of the causes of this are. Now, I have my thesis statement here. There are three main causes that might explain why all the students in a class passed, which are easy classes, differences in teachers, and exceptional students. I want to just nicely transition that just a little bit more. So I'm going to add a little bit here. While there may be many reasons, there are three main causes. So I'm acknowledging that there could be other reasons beside this, but these are the three things that I've identified here. I have my background information and my thesis, and I'm going to go back and work on my hook. The purpose of the hook is to draw the reader into this essay. We all have lots of things that we read every day, and a lot of times we just look at them and pass by them. I don't read every article in the newspaper. I don't read everything I see on the internet. I don't even read everything that's in your textbook, and I kind of doubt that any of you read all of your textbook either. But a lot of times it's the first thing that the first sentence or so that I might use to decide if I'm really interested or not. So the hook is important. In your book, your final draft book, you can see some information about the hook on page 25. So this might be a good time to pause and look over page 25. It talks there about some different kinds of hooks that you can use. You can use a surprising statistic, a provocative question, an interesting fact or statement, or a memorable quote. These are some of the options that you have. Of course, there are many other options and ways that you could do this. For this purpose, I want to have a really good hook. So I'm actually going to try two different hooks to find out which one is going to work for me. I've got the background information, I've got the thesis, that's going to stay the same. I'm just going to choose two hooks and write two different introductions And then I'm going to ask some people and get some feedback from them about which one is most effective in drawing the reader in. Hook for me to use is the one called A Surprising Statistic. So I'm going to use this one for my introduction option 1, and then I'll come back and I'll look at an option 2. Here's my hook. In 2016, 100% of students enrolled in a writing course at an intensive English program, this is why it's good to read over your stuff, passed the course. I'm not super happy about this yet. I think it could be better, but at least it's a start, and it's a surprising statistic. And it was pretty easy for me to come up with right there. So you might try starting with a surprising statistic. So that's one option, but I want to find the best introduction that I can to draw my reader into my paper. So I'm going to look a little bit further. I'm going to look back at this list and see if I can come up with another option for introduction option 2. Suggestions that your book gives is to use a memorable quote. So I'm going to use my friend Google to see if I can find a memorable quote. So quotes, students all pass class. Let's see what it comes up with. Grades quotes. Maybe there's something here. So I'm just going to have to look down through here and see if I can find something. I looked through that quick. I didn't find any quotes that I think are going to be particularly helpful for this. So I'm going to move on to another idea, which just shows if the first thing you try doesn't work, just look something else. So the next one is a provocative question. So a question that makes people think. So I'm going to try that one next. Okay, so I just added my question here. Everyone knows there's a problem when all the students in a class fail. But what if all the students pass? So I'm just posing a question to get the reader interested. And now I have 2 different introductions. The only thing that's different about them is the red part, which is the hook. So that wasn't very difficult at all to write 2 different introductions. But now I need to decide which one I should use for my paper. And this is where it's helpful to ask someone else's opinion, to ask a peer for their opinion about this, for some feedback. So now would be a great time for you to pause this and to work on writing your introduction with your hook, your background information, and make sure your thesis statement is very clearly the last sentence in your introductory paragraph, because that's where your reader is going to expect to find it. And if it's not the last sentence in your introductory paragraph, your reader is probably going to be confused. So you might want to take a minute to work on that, and then once you have 2 different options of an introduction, just like I did here, choose 2 different hooks so you can write 2 different introductions. Then I'm going to show you how you can ask your peers for some feedback about which one you should use in your paper. Okay, once you've written your 2 introductions, then we're going to put them in Canvas. And I haven't done this before, so it might be a bit tricky, but let's see what we can do. So I'm going to go here to Modules. And down here to Cause and Effect Introduction, this one right here, a discussion board. Okay, so here it says please post 2 different introduction paragraphs, then reply to 2 different classmates' posts. And here are some words that you might use in your reply, like I prefer, choose, because. All right, so I'm going to reply, and I need to pull up that, this. So here's my title. I'm just going to copy and paste that. Did it work? Okay, great. So here's the title, The Problem of Passing. Here's my first introduction, option 1, surprising statistic. And then here it is for people to read. And here's my introduction, option 2, provocative question. Okay, so before I submit that, let me just look over it quickly. This would be a good time to run spell check, to read over it to yourself before you put it up there for everybody to see, to make sure that you've actually spelled things correctly and that everything is ready. So then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to click post reply and I'm going to see what happens. Okay, so it's listed under test student and then the problem with passing. And so here are my my two options. So if I was a real student and then some other student came, then they would need to read 2 of these, and then they could reply to mine, and they could say something like, I prefer option 2, the provocative. Because I think it's more interesting to the reader, and because the reader will start to think of the answer to the question and so will be more interested to keep reading. Okay, so then I can just click post reply here. Post reply. And then I can see that that's in there. So what you're going to do is you are going to write your 2 different hooks and put them with your introduction. Then you're going to reply to the assignment that I have here, cause and effect. After you do that, then you're going to go down and you're going to read 2 different students, 2 of your classmates' posts, and then you're going to reply to each of them. So you might read Mohammed's post and then you might reply to his and say, I prefer option number 1, and then tell why. And then after you finish reading Mohammed's, then you might read Richard's, and then you might say, I think that your first option is better because, and then you'll tell why. So it's important that you start this assignment a little bit early. Don't wait till the last minute, because you're going to need to write your own introductions, and then you're going to have to reply to your classmates and give them some feedback on it. So I suggest starting and writing yours first, posting them, and then coming back a little later on and replying to your classmates. As always, if you have questions about this, please let me know. Here's just an outline of what I showed you here today so that you can work through these steps. So hint, don't wait too long to start because you're going to need some time to do this. You're going to write the background knowledge and then put it with a thesis. Then you're going to try 2 different hooks. Then please check your spelling and your grammar. You'll need to go to Canvas, to modules, and choose the discussion about cause and effect introduction. You're going to reply to the first one that shows the directions that I tell you what to do, and then copy and paste your 2 introduction paragraphs in there. Then hopefully some of your classmates will have done that too, and then you're going to read what they wrote, and then you're going to reply to 2 different classmates. Let me know if you have any questions about this, and happy writing.